Okay, I have here excerpts from a very important document. It's called Magic on Purpose, and it was produced in 1989 by the Genii Corporation, in which they do an excellent job explaining what makes magic magical. So this applies to magic in general, but I will primarily focus on card magic in this video. So I'm going to read this and then stop and give you examples and explanations along the way. Okay, there are only two classes of methods that we can use in creating the appearance of impossibility. All methods for magic depend upon either 1, unknown conditions, or 2, unknown results of actions. There must be something about the state of things that is unknown to the audience, and or there must be something happening that is causing results that are unknown to the audience. The unknown conditions can be divided into two further kinds. 1, those dealing with the properties of objects, and we'll see that in just a moment. And number 2, those involving the locations of objects. Either the audience does not know all the properties of the objects they can see, and or there are objects they can't see and don't know where they are located. Examples of unknown properties of objects are, now I've highlighted in red my examples, which I've switched out for ones that deal with the generic world of magic. So number 1, packets of cards that are invariant or unharmed relative to one or more kinds of shuffles. Or here's another example they provide, a double-backed card. But I want to stop for a moment and focus on number 1, packets of cards that are invariant relative to one or more kinds of shuffles. So for those familiar with my channel, you'll recognize that there are 3 primary structures that I teach and use in many of the effects I share on my YouTube channel. The first one is abbreviated 2C. And as you can see here, here's kind of a simplified model for it. There's a repeating pattern that occurs twice. It's called a 2-cycle structure. So for example, if I take ace 2, 3, so we're really only focused on the card values, ace 2, 3, and then stack these on top of those, we will have what's called a 2-cycle structure or a cyclic structure. Now it ends up that this kind of organization is invariant or unharmed by random cuts like this. So why don't we go ahead and look at that and just kind of confirm that that's the case. So the question is there a pattern that repeats twice? Okay. Well, there is. I have 3, ace, 2. 3, ace, 2. Okay. Now some people may prefer the original organization that started with an ace, but in terms of structure, this is equivalent. This is just as good, and you can accomplish all of the same wonderful things that you could with the original ace through 3, ace through 3. Okay? So it's invariant relative to random cuts. Because of that, it's invariant relative to what are called what's called the Charlier shuffle. Kind of hard to do the Charlier shuffle when you only have 6 cards. So it's kind of a bottom to top, top to bottom. And I can add a link in the description below to the Charlier shuffle. But that does not harm the fact that this is a, quote, 2-cycle. Now it's 3, ace, 2, 3, ace, 2, which is, I think, what it was before. Okay? So this particular packet arrangement, we can view it as a single object, has unknown properties to most of the spectators. And so you could mix it using the Charlier shuffle and quite a few other shuffles that I show on my channel, and you still haven't lost track of the structure of the packet as the performer. So for example, if you want to bring the aces, the twos, and the threes together as pairs, from here all you have to do is just deal out the cards into 3 piles like this, and we're guaranteed that the aces are paired up, the twos are paired up, and the threes are paired up. Okay? Sorry about that, it went off the screen. Now you might think that the original structure was pretty obvious, right? The ace through 3. But here is also a 2-cycle structure with cycle length 3. We say it has cycle length 3 because every 3 cards there's a pattern that repeats twice. Okay, so if the spectator were shown these, especially quickly, they would not see most likely anything of interest, but this is actually cyclic relative to card value, just like the first example. We have a king and a king, queen next in each cycle, then a queen, and then a jack and a jack. Okay, so you can do the same sort of things with this packet. You can do a Charlier shuffle until the spectator says stop, right? And you could have the spectator randomly cut it. We can convert it to other structures, as we'll see, to a mirrored or an AMP structure. But you can do the same thing in terms of bringing those 3 different card values together again. Just deal them out into 3 piles, and they're all paired up yet again. The second type of packet structure that has most likely unknown properties to the spectator is something called a mirrored packet, abbreviated by the letter M. And so as you can see down here, essentially it's the mirror image of itself. So for example, if we wanted to turn this into the mirrored image of that, all we would need to do is just take these cards, in some sense, just deal them in opposite order, like that. So ace, 2, 3, 3, 2, ace. Now it ends up that because it has this structure, you have a whole universe of mixing procedures available to you because of the stay stack principle, one of the most important principles in all of mathematical card magic. And I can add a link in the description below to the stay stack principle. But what it says is, if you have a mirrored packet such as this one, for each divisor of the packet size, which is 6, you can deal the cards into that many piles with random stacking from left to right or right to left, and it won't change the fact that it's a mirrored packet. The ordering almost certainly will be different, but it will still have that reflection, that mirrored characteristic. Okay, so for example, since 2 divides into 6 evenly, that means we can deal out the cards into 2 piles with random stacking decided by the spectator, and you can do this forever. So maybe right on left, okay, right, left, right. Maybe they want right on left. Okay, so you can just do this until the spectator's, is content that the cards are well mixed. Left on right again. Oh, by the way, since 3 is a divisor of 6 as well, we can actually deal it out into 3 piles with random stacking from left to right or right to left. Okay, spectator decides. Maybe they want stacking from left to right. Maybe we'll do just one more of those. Trying to keep it on this smaller window here. Maybe they want right to left. Okay. And believe it or not, from here, it's, quote, still mirrored. It's still a mirrored packet. So there's some kind of order to half of the cards that's reflected on the other half. So for example, it looks like it's the same, but the suits have changed places. So it's ace, 2, 3, 3, 2, ace. And once again, we're only focused on the values here, okay, not the suits. Now, depending on what you're doing, you can focus on the suits. That could be the characteristic you use to build your packet. So with the stay stack principle, we have many, many ways of mixing a packet like this. Here's another one. You can do an even or odd up jog. Okay, this will change it a bit, which is kind of cool. So now the mirrored structure is 2, 3, ace. Ace, 3, 2. So it's just the reflection of itself. Okay. Now when you have this kind of structure, there's an easy way to bring the pairs together. Okay, so if we just deal out from left to right, we can do it that way. You do something called the serpentine deal. The serpentine deal is instead of going left, right, left, from left to right for level 1 and then doing left to right for level 2, you do left to right for level 1 and then for level 2 you go backwards, kind of like a snake winding. Okay, so now we go backwards and we're guaranteed to have brought cards of the same value together. Okay, now for the final primary structure that has properties almost certainly unknown to a vast majority of spectators out there is something called an AMP. It stands for adjacent mirrored pairs. And here's a simplified version of it. It's like having a 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Okay, so to build it, it's like having ace, ace. And we'll do it up and down. Have more room. Now, once again, the suits really don't matter. So you could mix. You don't have to have club, heart all the way through. So maybe we'll have heart club now. The key is we have the 2 aces together, the 2 2s together, and then the 2 3s together. This is an AMP, and it also has its own universe of mixing procedures that won't harm this. Simple mixing procedure that leaves AMPs unharmed is something called the Bessie 2-2. You go 1, 2 from the top, 1, 2 from the bottom, 1, 2 from the top. Okay, that doesn't change anything except for the particular arrangement of those pairs. But it's still a pair of cards of the same value, same value, same value. So this is just as good as the original one. Okay, and maybe now we'll tie it in with the other packet structures, because once you have an AMP, you can convert it, change it to a 2-cycle by just doing a left, right with random stacking. It is now a 2-cycle, so 2C on the chart there. So now there's going to be a pattern that repeats twice. Ace 3, 2, ace 3, 2. Okay, and so from here you can kind of mix it with the Charlier shuffle. A great way to go from this to a mirrored structure is to perform the Klondike shuffle. The top and bottom cards get pulled off as one, and believe it or not, that converts it to a mirrored structure now. 2 ace 3, 3 ace 2. Okay, and even from here, a great way to convert it back to an AMP is to perform one more Klondike shuffle. In fact, a great way to do it is just Klondike pairs to the table like that, which the spectator is going to look at and think, okay, there's no way the cards within each pair could be related in any special way, when in fact you've brought them back as pairs. Okay, and then moving ahead to our final page here for Magic on Purpose. Examples of unknown locations of objects are a card in the box. Maybe they didn't see you put it in there before. Maybe it's a prediction card. A palm card, that's where you're hiding it in your palm and then maybe transferring it to another pile. The unknown results of actions can also be divided into further kinds. Those dealing with the properties of actions and those involving unobserved actions. Either the audience does not know all the properties of actions they observe, and or there are actions they don't see. Okay, so think about what those might be. So examples of unknown properties of actions are structure preserving, which we've seen already, or structure converting, and we've seen that as well. We converted an AMP to a 2-cycle, and then to a mirrored structure, and then back to an AMP. So these are unknown properties of actions for just about everyone out there. Or another example is sleight of hand. Some people may not know that a particular action accomplishes some important step within a given routine to achieve the outcome the magician is wanting. Think about the traditional pass in card magic, where you actually move an entire block of cards, let's say from the bottom to the top, but the spectator doesn't detect it because you're doing it in the action of supposedly just flipping the packet face up or flipping it over. Okay, so sleight of hand fits this very, very well. And as the act progresses, stronger methods should be used, methods with more unknown conditions or actions with more unknown results. This should produce stronger effects near the end of the act. So let me finish with some of the most important and amazing structures in all of mathematical card magic